All right, episode 766 with Tobias Segal from Promolife is brought to you by Mitolife's Dissolve It All systemic enzymes, the Relax Far Infrared Sauna, which you can use with ozone therapy, by the way, Lifeblood's Methylene Blue, and Surthrival's Colostrum. Now, most of you guys know I'm a huge fan of ozone therapy. I've been using it for years, researching it, and we've done multiple shows on it. So in this show, we talked about the history of ozone therapy, what exactly it is, and what happens when ozone comes into the body, and why it's such a profound way to heal the body. We talked about use cases, how to get ozone in the body and on the body for maximum healing and benefit. And we talked about the efficacy of it, whether or not it's safe. And then we also talked about what it does when it interacts with lipids and amino acids in the body. And you guys know I love ozone therapy. And near the end, we talked about his devices and the differences between ceramic and cold plasma and all that good stuff. This is a really good show. Oh, and by the way, there's a coupon code if you guys are interested in any of his devices. We'll put that down below. But we also covered a bunch, about 10 to 15 questions from our premium Patreon supporters that are linked down below if you're interested in our Patreon account. You guys know I love ozone therapy. This was a really fun episode. So without further ado, enjoy the show. All right, welcome my friends to episode 766 with Tobias Segal from Promolife. And we're going to be talking today about ozone therapy and all the different ways you can utilize it. So I'm really excited about this because I've been studying ozone for the last couple of years and really excited about it. So thank you for being on the show, Tobias.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate, the time, and hopefully I can answer as many questions as possible to convince people that ozone therapy is the way to go, and just make people understand that it's very, very safe and very effective.
Yeah, it's amazing once you start studying it, because like I just told you before we started recording, I've been studying ozone. I mean, I learned about Promolife, like I said, from David Wolf, I think 2003 or 4. Yeah. And you guys have been going since 99, right?
We started, really it was like 2000. So we didn't really get into ozone. It was shortly after that. It was actually my dad who started the company, and he ended up having a few health issues that, he was always looking for additional alternative methods to treat stuff, and stumbled across ozone, and wow. And it just kind of blew his mind. So he had some candida issues that he was dealing with, and ozone was that one thing that just really pushed it over the edge to essentially get him to recovery so much faster. And once you have success with something, it really allows you to have a lot more confidence in it, and you can start experimenting more. And really what we're finding is people who are getting into ozone, the biggest thing for me with people who try ozone is how fast they typically see results. Like if you're dealing with a condition and you feel that ozone can help, you're gonna notice something pretty quickly. Now, if you're completely healthy, you're probably not going to notice much. So other than maybe some increased energy, and that's about it.
Yeah. It's an amazing substance. So for people that are kind of new to it, and I know for me, for a long time, when I'd hear people talk about it, I was really kind of not scared of it, but just thought, oh, that's another thing that I want to learn about in the future. It's kind of overwhelming. I don't understand it. So just in your experience, what is ozone therapy? Maybe explain a little bit of that for people.
Yeah. So ozone therapy is the process of taking medical grade ozone. That's the key here, medical grade ozone. Some people say ozone is toxic. They say ozone is smog. That's not how ozone therapy works. The ozone that we're creating is done through a pure oxygen source. And when it enters a machine, we're electrically charging oxygen. That's all we're doing. So we're taking O2 and converting it to O3 through an electrical charge. That electrical charge is ozone. It's very healing. It has a lot of anti-inflammatory properties. It has a lot of antiviral, antimicrobial, antifungal properties. And our bodies know how to use it because our body naturally produces a small amount of ozone. So this is essentially adding something that our body produces. I think the biggest takeaway, and probably the easiest way to understand ozone, is we have antioxidants in our body and we also have oxidants. Oxidants are also known as free radicals. And so everybody hears that term free radicals. Oh, that's horrible. That causes aging. But if we don't have some free radicals, we're going to die because we're not going to be able to fight off viruses and bacteria. So like we have to have that balance. We have to have a good amount of antioxidants. We have to have a good amount of oxidants. And so if ozone helps generate that balance in our body, so we can essentially maintain a proper immune system and get over things substantially faster. So, in a nutshell, ozone stimulates the body's ability to produce antioxidants, generates, oxidants that it can fight off viruses and infection, and essentially just speeds up recovery for us.
And so what it's doing is it's a molecule with three atoms of oxygen, right, attached to it. And in nature, that's very unstable, right? So at that point, as I understand it, when it interacts with lipids and amino acids inside the body, it actually donates one of those electrons, or one of them comes off. Is that correct? Or one of those oxygen atoms?
So what happens is ozone's negatively charged. And so when it comes in contact with like viruses, especially, what it does is it pulls electrons from like a virus. And so what that essentially does is it virtually instantaneously neutralizes or deactivates viruses. And so whenever ozone comes in contact with other fats and other lipids, what's happening is you're generating additional oxides or additional oxidative compounds. And so, these are entering our body. And so it's just another way that we're fighting off other pathogens within ourselves. And so the great thing with ozone is you can't become viruses and bacteria can't become resistant to it because of the way it destroys, a virus, the way it destroys bacteria. I mean, it literally destroys the cell wall of bacteria. And so there's no way bacteria can ever develop resistance to ozone, which is amazing because all these other drugs that are coming out, they're constantly having to switch things up, making them more powerful, creating more side effects because bacteria develop resistance to everything.
It's so interesting, and I don't want to go down this rabbit trail too much, but when I learned about ozone therapy and ultraviolet, using these primarily ultraviolet's more of a UV light-based form of oxidation in the same way ozone is. And when you learn about what these things can do inside the human,
I think we're having an internet issue.
Testing one.
All right, are you there? Okay, I can see you now.
Are you there? Okay. I'm not sure what happened. My Zoom just restarted.
That's super weird. It was like you just disappeared on me. So.
Oh, funny. Okay. Well, that's cool. Anyway, so what I was saying was, hopefully this gets recorded. It says it's still recording, but, the medical doctor friend of ours who's been on our show multiple times was using, UBI ultraviolet along with ozone, through IV. And he was saying he hasn't seen a case in 20 plus years where something that starts with C and V hasn't completely turned around. And when you learn this kind of information, it really makes you think the overall picture of what's going on, and how come we're not being told about this?
It is really bizarre. I mean, with that whole word C and V, what I found one of the most interesting things, when this whole thing started was a lot of dental offices were actually, prior to that CV thing happening, we're actually taking other types of sterilizing agents and shooting it up people's nose to inoculate viruses that replicate in the nasal passage. And so this was a very, very well-practiced thing, even prior to this whole thing happening. And I feel like we just took so many steps backwards, we can't do anything. Nothing can be done. We have to wait until, that V word came out. So then you can now have what is needed to essentially get better. And, what blew my mind was there are so many cool things that you can do.
Hey, have you guys tried Sir Thribal's colostrum yet? If you haven't, you totally should. I love this stuff. What I love about it, it has lactoferrin in it, which is a really powerful iron chelator. It also has retinoic acid, which is real vitamin A, which helps load copper into ceruloplasmin. It helps to seal your gut lining, improving digestion. It contains all essential fats, sugars, and amino acids. It's non-GMO, organic, grass-fed, and it also has transfer factor and immunoglobulins in it, so it modulates your immune system. Great for gut health. There's 4 flavors: the original, vanilla, strawberry, and chocolate. I like the original myself. I add it to my smoothies, coffee, ice cream, pancakes, shakes. The kids love it. It's amazing stuff. Check it out on biochargemate.com.
That can help aid and assist the body. And nobody wanted to look at it. Well, a lot of people did, and a lot of people had tremendous success doing it. And ozone essentially was just one of those tools. And so, it's not hard to use at home. And so we saw a tremendous amount of people adding ozone to their, daily health repertoire at home, because it was something they could easily do. And ozone is well known and well documented to essentially eliminate viruses and pathogens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating, and so the more you learn about the power of it and what it can do inside the body, it's just absolutely mind blowing. And there's so many different ways, because I get this question a lot about what's better, molecular hydrogen or ozone, and they're so different. But I'm really partial to ozone because of so many different use applications for it, and we'll get into that in a second. But in terms of like the history, it's my understanding that it was first invented in the 1800s and later used to disinfect operating room tables in like the late 1800s. Is that correct?
Let's even go further. I mean, this was used. They used this to medically treat trench foot in World War I. Okay, so
wow.
They would bag people's legs with ozone gas to essentially treat these horrible things that were going on with people's legs. So this was like widely used. They also, so like Nikola Tesla was one of the guys that really created the first ozone machine. He actually started infusing ozone into olive oil and making his own ozonated olive oil. And you could buy it in pharmacies back in the day.
No way. No way.
So like this was something that, was essentially pretty well known. And then right around like 1930, the AMA essentially tried to squash a lot of these alternative treatments. And it really kind of went away for a bit. And then it really resurfaced back in like the 50s and 60s in Germany, where they started using it medically to treat by removing the blood, ozonating the blood, putting it back in the body. So that's where it really kind of took off even more. And then in the 90s in the United States, we started seeing a slow uptick of people doing more of this. And then once the late 90s hit, early 2000s, it just started exponentially growing, and more practitioners started getting into ozone and providing it in their office, through IV blood treatments. And honestly, right now we're seeing, people in just about every if you live in a major city, you should be able to find an ozone doctor. A lot of people have this in their own home. I mean, there are celebrities that are doing this. I mean, this is like something that we're consistently seeing more and more people get into. So it's a lot more common than people think.
Yeah, it's a fascinating subject. And so when you look at the safety of it, typically what you'll see online is, people that have any issues with ozone may have issues with the IV. It's the IV form mostly. And when people complain, it's typically like how the IV is inserted, or there's an issue with the IV, not necessarily the using ozone at home. Is that correct?
So there's very little side effects with ozone because, of how our body reacts with it. Now, just with anything, it's all about the dose. So if you overdo the amount of ozone, you are essentially going to have a potential reaction that could cause some issues. So it's really about knowing the dose, and a good professional will understand how that works. Even at home, it's actually really safe. The only thing you can't do with ozone is breathe it. And so it is considered an irritant. It will cause some irritation on the lungs. And so that's the one thing that we don't want to do. And so that's kind of where ozone gets a bad rap. Like I see some people say, oh, ozone smog. Well, that's BS. Like I think my biggest convincer for these people is, well, do you drink bottled water? And everybody's like, well, of course I do. I mean, why would I not? Well, every single bottle of water is purified with ozone. So are you putting smog into your bottled water and then drinking it? No, you're not. And so ozone is an approved ingredient and an approved processing agent in the organic food industry. All bottled water is purified with it. It is so widely used, people don't realize it because it is incredibly safe. It is non-toxic. That's the big takeaway. It is not toxic. It is an irritant. When you breathe it, it can cause irritation. So, but when we do all these therapies, we're not breathing direct ozone gas. And it's pretty easy to set up your systems so to prevent that from happening.
So what happens, it's my understanding there's a lack of antioxidant capabilities on the lung tissue. And that's why, like if you breathe it, it becomes an irritant to the lungs. Is that correct?
Basically, yeah. I mean, it's just that tissue in your lungs is just way more sensitive. So our bodies have antioxidant coatings essentially on all of our cells. We have some protectants in place. Viruses and bacteria, bacteria especially, don't have that antioxidant coating, which is why ozone can go after them so quickly. So we're set up to be protected. A lot of these other pathogens out there are not, and so we're okay. And like I said, it's all about the dose. And so when we do ozone therapy, this is all low dose stuff, and so we're not going to these crazy high concentrations that some people say are incredibly dangerous, because when you hit incredibly high concentrations of ozone, yes, it can definitely be not safe, but we know that we're not getting anywhere near that. And we're doing it in a much more controlled way that is incredibly safe.
Now, in terms of breathing, since that's the only thing you can't really do, I've heard of people, and I know there's devices, and I think you might have some on Promolife, to effectively breathe it through, bubbling it through like an olive oil. Is that safe, do you think?
So that actually is safe. And so it's a really cool thing. I think there's some people who don't understand how it actually works. And so what's happening is when we infuse ozone into oil, we typically use olive oil. The oil acts as a filter mechanism. And so it's actually filtering out and that's the big takeaway, is all of the actual active ozone gas. And so what's coming off the oil are more these compounds called ozonides and terpenes. And that's essentially what you're breathing in. So when we bubble ozone in oil, the oil is a filter mechanism. It's removing the ozone, and we're essentially breathing a non-ozone form of ozonides and terpenes. So it is 100% safe. Talked to so many people who have respiratory issues who do that, and it helps clear it up. Like we had a guy that I work with here. He was coughing next to me. I was like, hey, let's go breathe some ozone through oil. He's like, oh yeah, I need to do that. And like, it was like the only thing that worked for him. Like within 2 days, his coughing had stopped. He was getting so much more back to normal. And I mean, he was taking like olive leaf. He was taking vitamin C. He was taking all these other things, and nothing was kicking it. But as soon as he tried to do the ozone, it's like, boom, it was like magic.
That's so funny. That happens to me a lot because we have a lot of tools here, at the house, and biohacking tools and all the good stuff. And, I'll come down with like a cold or flu or something, and someone will recommend something that I have in my kitchen I never thought about. It's funny, this guy works for Promolife. Didn't even think to breathe ozone,
I know. It's funny. Like, I think some people don't realize, like, when they're not feeling good. And like, so sometimes just a little kick can help you get you through and make you feel so much better.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we have a couple questions from our Patreons about breathing through olive oil, which we'll get to later. But I have a lot of questions about that. But what I love about ozone is that there's so many different ways of getting it into the body. Like there's a million different ways, and all you have to do is just avoid that one thing, which is breathing it in. In terms of like use cases, I always tell our people that like having an ozone machine is effectively the same as having an emergency room, a medical doctor, a hospital, all in your own house, and you can treat your family in so many different ways. What are some favorite use cases or ways that you have seen people use ozone?
So ozone can be used in the home. There's a few different really effective ways you can do it. And I definitely want to address probably the way that everybody's going to be like, oh, that's weird. So really one of the easiest ways you can use ozone at home and it be highly effective, it's this therapy called rectal insufflations. And so everybody's, like, oh, that sounds not fun. I mean, okay. I mean, a lot of people do enemas at home because they have to, okay? Whether you're doing a coffee enema, just an enema to help get your, get it moving down there. This is essentially a gas enema. So instead of a liquid, we're putting a gas rectally into our body. And our colon has so many blood vessels, and also it has this vein called the portal vein, which goes right to our liver. And so adding ozone to the colon essentially allows the ozone to be absorbed very rapidly throughout the body. It's even like a lot of people consider ozone rectally as very close. I'm not going to say it's, this on the same level, but very close to doing intravenous IV ozone treatments. And so it's something that takes 5 minutes at home, and you're essentially adding ozone to the body very rapidly, and it gets distributed, very effectively throughout the body. So this can help with, like, if you have colds, if you have like viral issues, if you have a bacterial issue. I mean, we see people who use it consistently for Lyme disease. We have people who use it for the CV. There's just so many endless things that, like, if you catch a bug, it's one of the fastest ways to get it into your body. Other options that you can do that are less invasive, that first, I think a good starting point would be drinking ozonated water. So what we can do is we can infuse ozone water into a beaker like this. And so as the ozone hits the water, it's going to start picking up some of that ozone. And after about 5 to 10 minutes, we can drink that water, and it systemically will allow our body to, our stomach will start absorbing the water or the ozone. And it's just another way. It's just not quite as powerful as doing the rectal insufflations, but it's really good. I think it's a.
Is that because of its impact on the liver, doing it rectally?
That's correct. Yes, that's a huge plus with it. But like when you drink ozonated water, it's great for like throat issues, upper GI issues, and then it just gets absorbed from there. So like I remember I was talking to this lady, she was having all these like tight respiratory chest issues. And so as soon as she started drinking ozonated water, it started really making her, she could breathe better. She could feel substantially better. And so she would have to do this every 2 to 3 hours, and she got better within about a day. And so I think the ozonated water is also very powerful and very effective.
And I've also heard the drinking of the ozonated water is really great for H. pylori and stomach infections and things like that, right?
Absolutely. 100% correct. It's something that you can easily do. You just take distilled water, ozonate it. The colder, the better. And we can go into there's all different, information about how to make the strongest ozonated water, but just 5 to 10 minutes, ozonate it, drink it, and you feel good. I make my kids do that. Like if my kids get sick, I make them drink ozonated water because it's easy for them to do, and it's one of the fastest, treatments for them. So
that's awesome.
I think you're right. Everybody should have something like this in their own home, and it does act as almost like a really good, powerful medicine cabinet.
Yeah. It's interesting. I never researched this, and I've been wanting to for a long time. Maybe you have. How as we age, they tell us, I don't know if this is actually true, but we deplete our stomach acid as we age. And I wonder if there's any effect of ozone on stomach acid. If it affects the liver doing it rectally, the liver is directly tied to the amount of HCl we can produce. So I wonder if there's a connection there. Have you looked at that at all, or?
I haven't, but that is an interesting topic. I'll have to definitely look into that more. I think there's a lot of I think the overall takeaway with ozone, and it helps with the body. It helps, balance the immune system out. It helps balance our antioxidant oxidant levels. So I do believe if we're feeling better and if we have more energy, a lot of that stuff will help balance itself out.
One thing I've done is after a long plane flight or something like that, I've always just come home and done a sinus insufflation. And you can do that with a syringe. If people are thinking, well, I thought you can't breathe it. You can do that with a syringe and take a deep breath and then pump the air into your nasal passage through your nose and have no problem. And I've had nothing but, that is such a powerful way to get ozone all into your sinus cavities. If you're afraid you've hung out with someone who's got the flu or something, it's so powerful.
It is. It's super easy to do. So most viruses replicate in the sinus passage. And so it's all about lowering that viral load. So if we can knock that viral load down, we're going to be way less likely to get sick. So literally all you do is you fill up a syringe with ozone gas like this, and it's so easy to do. You attach it to the generator. As the ozone's produced, it fills itself up like this. You take the syringe, you act like you're Like I always say, like, act like you're going swimming underwater. So you're holding your breath, you just push the gas up your nose, and then you're still holding your breath because you're underwater. But then when you pop out of the water, you always exhale to get that excess water out of your nose. Same with the ozone gas. We're just letting it permeate our sinuses and then just exhaling to push it all out. There's absolutely zero lung issues, no issues with that because we're not actually breathing any ozone gas. We're just letting it hit our sinus passages.
And I've used the syringe for the ear as well. Get the inside of your ear a little bit wet so it doesn't, irritate the skin. But then also I've seen I think you guys might sell one of those, those things for your ear. Yeah.
A little stethoscope. So you can have the ozone split off and just go into your ears. You do that for like 3 to 5 minutes. Great for honestly, it's really good for brain fog. Like if people have cognitive issues, it's so good for that. For kids, ear infections, earaches. Honestly, I've seen a lot of people get help with like eye health as well. Cognitive issues, like I said, it's probably one of the best ways to use ear insufflations, and also for sinuses as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I read a research study a while back how it can impact the cochlear and get past the eardrum, which for people with cochlear issues, I know that like cochlear implants are a big thing these days, but maintaining the health of your hearing is really important. And it's something that I do a few times a week. And then, if I get sick or something, I'll definitely do it, every day for a while, but that's a powerful treatment.
Yeah. And it's so easy to do. That's the thing. Like, I don't think people realize, like, once you have everything set up, you literally have this like antibacterial, antiviral station set up like in your home, and it's so easy to do.
In some other use cases, we use the ozonated water. We use that to spray our kids' mouths. Our kids are only 4, so they're not really drinking it yet, but we'll spray their mouth after we brush their teeth at night. I've sprayed it on my dog's belly. One of them had like a little yeast infection and it just cleared it right up. My wife used the ozonated water on, I think, like leaf minor on one of our lemon trees on the leaves, completely just reversed that. There's so many uses for just the water, right? It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, so like going back to putting it in your mouth, like probably the best mouthwash you'd ever use. Like anytime I use ozonated water as a mouthwash, you feel your mouth stays fresh longer. There's less plaque buildup. Because what's happening is ozone goes after the anaerobic bacteria first. Now it's going to kill some of the other bacteria as well, but if you look at how oxygen operates, oxygen's always going to go after anaerobic first. And so, when it comes to like dental health, I mean, you cannot beat like ozone. And I think the big takeaway with dental health is people don't realize how important the health of your mouth is to the overall health of your body. Like you can look at tooth meridian charts and see how different teeth are connected to different organs. And so like, it could be like, I have a tooth issue here and that's why I'm having a gut issue, or this gut issue is causing this tooth to hurt. And so once you start clearing these issues up, then this clears up, or if you clear that up, your gut's going to feel better. And so it's something like we just need to pay more attention and, got to focus on how we feel, and we can really do a better job.
Mm-hmm. So what my nighttime routine is, I'll typically take a shower and maybe I'll do some oil pulling or something when I'm in the shower. And when I'm in the shower, before I take a shower at night, I will set the ozone machine to run to make ozonated water. And it's sort of running the whole time I'm in the shower, which is about 10 minutes or so, 10 to 15 minutes. And then I'll spit the oil out. I'll kind of just rinse my mouth out a little bit. And then I'll brush my teeth. And then I will do, the last thing I do is an ozonated mouthwash. And I've even used it in my water pick, but I haven't done that lately. But when I went to my biological dentist, if people are looking for a good biological dentist, by the way, I always recommend healthysmilesforlife.com. My friend, Dr. Stuart Nunley. But when they looked at my mouth, they said, have you guys heard about systemic enzyme therapy or proteolytic enzymes? This is my secret weapon for battling inflammation. And we had a guest a long time ago, Dr. Nicholas Gonzalez, who is using high-dose proteolytic enzymes on late-stage pancreatic cancer patients with great success. Serrapeptase is derived from the same bacteria that the Japanese silkworm uses to dissolve its own cocoon. And these are from Mitolife enteric-coated serrapeptase and nattokinase. The main method of action is to dissolve necrotic debris in the blood that shouldn't be neuropathy there, sort of like Pac-Man, going all throughout your blood and eating things up like scar tissue, fibrin, fibrosis, calcification, fibrinogen. And this takes a massive burden off your liver and your white blood cells. It could be used with anything that's inflammatory to lower inflammation, anything that ends in an itis or osis. You can even use it topically with DMSO. I've done that before with great success. This stuff is amazing. It's called Dissolve It All, and you can find it on biochargemate.com under the Mitolife section. And our code EHR15 will get you a 15% discount. There is no, like they did a slide on the microscope and they found nothing. And she said, "What's your nighttime routine?" And I told her, and she said, "You're the first person who I've never seen any issues with in terms of bacteria overload and stuff like that in their mouth." And she said the ozone must be doing something. And I said, "Wow, I just started doing it 2 weeks before I had that done." So it's powerful.
It's very powerful. I mean, I do want to, I do like to always say for people who do a lot of ozone, it's still good to take a probiotic. Okay. I mean, ozone will kill some of your good bacteria, but your good bacteria, like one of the doctors that I get to talk to a lot about this, his name is Dr. Howard Robbins. Really tons of amazing information from this guy. He deals a lot with probiotics as well. And he's a big advocate for taking probiotics. If you do ozone therapy, he says what he's seen is, even though the ozone will kill some of the good bacteria, that good bacteria bounce back substantially faster. And so, it's still okay to supplement with a good probiotic, but it's not anything close to what an antibiotic does, where it just wipes your whole gut out. And so, ozone is your body bounces back. Like, even if it's, eliminating some of the good bacteria, your body bounces back so exponentially faster. And I think one thing that people need to understand, people hear, "Oh, I don't want to kill my good bacteria." But if you're having an issue, you have an overgrowth of bad bacteria. And so you've got to get rid of that somehow. And so the best way to do that is with ozone, because it's going to affect your good bacteria substantially less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's something also that I think we have a question later on about specific protocols. And that's why there's protocols surrounding ozone, give your body a bit of a break. But in terms of other use cases, the other day I shared on Instagram a case study of a 59-year-old woman who had type 2 diabetic neuropathy. And she had her hand basically was like open wounds. And the doctor had said to her that the only thing they could recommend is amputation. And she was able to seek out the advice of a naturopathic doctor, this lady, and she did 6 months of ozone bagging daily. I don't know what the concentration she used or what she used, but it was a 6-month process. And the repair to her tissue, it's an Instagram story if people want to see the photos. But the repair of her tissue, I mean, they were recommending amputation, and 6 months of ozone bagging completely restored all the tissue on her hand. It's amazing.
I mean, it makes complete sense because ozone is vascular. Ozone will help accelerate blood vessel growth, and it accelerates healing. And so you're essentially adding oxygen to an oxygen deprived area. So you're giving the body the chance to actually heal. And so I've heard that story countless times where people, can help increase circulation to specific parts of the body. It's not hard to do. Bagging is one of the easiest treatments you could do at home. It takes like 10 to 15 minutes. It's so simple.
And so in terms of, I guess, transdermal application or external applications like that, there's also cupping too, which I've done as well, where you can buy a little glass device and hyperconcentrate in terms of surface area and the volume of the ozone into or onto a specific area of skin. If someone had maybe some extra cells growing on their skin or some lesion or some cut, this would be something they could do as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, applying ozone topically it's such an easy, effective thing to do. Like I always like to use the example of my dad. He was bit by a brown recluse spider. Okay. And so for people who are familiar with like what happens when you get bit by one of those things, like some people don't have any issues, but some people, some people have some major issues as well. So he got bit right here, and it literally started eating a hole through his arm. And that's what those spider bites do. And so, he went to this is like right when he was like kind of learning about ozone, starting to get into it. So he went to the doctor, and they were like, oh, that's not good. We're going to have to get you on steroids. And so he's like, I don't want to take steroids. Cause like Like I've talked to a lot of medical doctors, and they say only take steroids if your life depends on it. I mean, I'm not trying to like give medical advice here, but so he was like, well, let's just try some ozone. So he started cupping the spider bite with actual ozone gas. And it wasn't until he started doing that, it actually started to heal and get better. I personally think if he didn't do anything like that, he would have lost his arm.
You think so?
But he ended up, recovering. I mean, he has like the biggest scar I've ever seen on his arm. And it was literally just from a spider bite.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I wonder have you heard of use cases for ozone on snake bites? I haven't. I guess that'd be different, wouldn't it?
It probably depends on the type of snake, because I don't see why it's not going to hurt. Probably, I bet what you would have to do, and this is like kind of diving in a little bit deeper, but you probably have to get to it right after you got bit. Cause like, I know with that brown recluse bite, the poison concentrates right there. Some snakes, it's going to be it's going to get into the blood supply. It's going to essentially spread. So I bet you'd have to essentially do like, subcutaneous or actual like ozone injections to help alleviate that. But, that's something that's out of my wheelhouse. I'm not 100% familiar with how that works. So let's just hope nobody gets bit by a snake.
Well, it's interesting because, I've trained in martial arts, and I like watching, some of the fights, and, there's, a lot of those guys that do wrestling in college or they train in martial arts, they'll get, I forget what they call staph infection. Right. And so I think there was a famous UFC fighter that passed away a few years ago from staph infection. I just think to myself, like, if these people just knew about ozone, it could have been a whole different story, just like your dad.
No, seriously, it could have and that's the thing with ozone. Ozone is such a powerful tool. You always hear about like staph, MRSA, all these like it's like, oh, this is like a resistant form of MRSA, to antibiotics. Like we're screwed if this gets out more. Ozone, it doesn't matter, because ozone, they can't build up tolerance to ozone because of how it oxidizes and destroys the cells. And so, I mean, 100%, I think, ozone can be used topically very, very effectively with staph. And then there's so many other cool uses with it.
And also, I was just going to bring up something in terms of ozone. I mean, there's a reason why also that if you go to any natural cancer clinic, and we can't make any claims here, but what we can say is that there's not a natural cancer clinic in the world that doesn't utilize some form of ozone therapy, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the good ones do, because they understand that cancer is, essentially a sugar-driven cell. And when you start switching it over to a more of an oxygen, adding oxygen to that, it's not going to do very well. And so, I mean, cancer's tough, but, ozone is one of the tools that can help assist and aid and hopefully help that person recover. So I think that's the goal.
Years ago, I was training in jiu-jitsu, and I tore my ACL. And at that time, this was 2008. And I started getting into health and researching, like I said, in around 2003. So I was well aware of my options at that time. And so I went to a regular doctor to go see what the state of my torn ACL was. And he said I think it was like 86% torn. It wasn't 100% tear, but he said, basically, there's nothing you can do when you tear a tendon like that, because it just can't regrow on its own. So you're going to be stuck the way you are, or you got to have surgery. And that was the two options. And then I started looking at the ACL recovery surgery, and I just realized, oh my gosh, this is much more than what I thought it was. This was like a whole 1.5 year process. And then so I started researching ozone, and subsequently I had, I think, 6 prolozone injections, and it didn't make my knee 100%. But it got me back to in the high 90s, I would say. And I would take that because I didn't want to get the metal plate inserted into my bone that would attract EMF. I didn't want to have a cadaver tendon whose DNA I didn't have. And so there's all these issues with the surgery. And so I got prolozone, and gosh, it effectively almost, made it 100% better. It's crazy.
It's amazing. So like, I was like, there's a pretty cool way as far as how prolozone works. And so, like, I see people, a lot of sports injuries, people inject it, it helps really good. But what it's essentially doing is it's going after that scar tissue, and it's helped regenerating it back to healthy tissue. Now that's medically, that's like, oh, that's not possible. But like, there are studies out there that show ozone affects collagen, and there are specific types of collagen that actually generate or turn into scar tissue, and it can help neutralize those. Like, we see a lot of, like, this is a little graphic for some people, but like, there's this disease that a lot of men get. It typically comes from like a sex injury called Peyronie's disease. It's like a bump on the penis. And what it is it's that scar tissue buildup. Now, they have drugs that you can take that can help with that. But I've talked to a lot of, doctors who have, prescribed those drugs, and they say it works kind of, not super great. But they say, what really works? If they inject that bump with ozone gas, like, they can literally almost reverse it. And,
wow.
People are like, I don't want to poke myself there, but do you want to have that bump? And it's one of those things where it can help neutralize scar tissue and heal. And that's why I think it's so effective on these injuries. And so, that's the big issue, is like, when we have that scar tissue buildup, we're not going to get better.
Yeah, it's so fascinating when you start going down the different use cases of ozone. It's fascinating. I was researching a while ago, cataracts and macular degeneration, and I came across a video from a former guest of our show, Dr. Edward Condrad, who's using saline ozone eye drops for cataracts and macular and having really good success. And then stumbled across another former guest of our show, Dr. Robert Rowan, and his clinic in San Francisco, and he's having really great success. I don't know how he's doing this, but he's somehow injecting ozone somewhere close to the eye. I don't know exactly how or what his protocol is, but he's having really great success with macular degeneration using ozone as well. But that's what I love about about these machines, is that you can get a safe and effective treatment at home without the injections. But there's so many different ways of using it.
Well, I want to touch up on the ozonated saline eye drops. Like, I make those at home. They're so easy to do. So like, we have a little kit that allows you to do it, and so it's like this little teeny bubbler. You just add. You can make your own saline if you want to. You can buy preservative-free saline online. And so what you do is you just ozonate it for a couple of minutes, and then you take the dropper, or you can take like an eye cup and just flush your eye out. And I had this eye issue a while back, and I've got it under control. It was called swimmer's eye, where it's like a fat deposit that builds up on the it's more on the white part of your eye. And then what you don't want to happen is it to grow over. And I would get flare-ups occasionally, and it was just like super irritating. And I was reading about it, and like, they recommend surgery to remove it. But the problem with surgery is there's a 50% chance it's going to come back more aggressively. And so I'm like, oh, screw that. I don't want to deal with that, because that's a risk. Because like, if it starts growing over your eye, you're not going to be able to see.
Yeah.
And so started doing the ozonated saline eye drops. I was having some inflammation issues as well. I got that under control, and I've been good. Like, I haven't had any issues. Like, there's been you can still kind of see it because it doesn't actually go away because it's like a fat deposit, but no issues, no flare-ups, no spreading. Everything's been good. So something that you can easily do at home.
Yeah. And that's what's so cool, about these treatments, especially if you have a family or a pet, but even just for yourself, if you live alone, if you fall down the stairs or you have a cut or a scrape, ozone bagging and limb bagging and doing preventative treatments like the rectal ozone. And getting back into that a little bit, I've done the rectal ozone, and what I like about it is that, like you said, it takes about 5 minutes. Actually, the cleanup is a little bit more than the actual ozone, doing the treatment, which is the whole thing is like 10 minutes long. But I've read that it's about 94% as powerful as the IV treatments. Have you seen that data at all?
That's a pretty common data point that we see out there. I think it varies between individual. I think to be close to that effectiveness, you're going to have a pretty cleaned out colon. And so that's something that people need to be aware of. Like, make sure you've had a bowel movement, even doing like an enema beforehand to clean yourself out. Because if you think about it, if you have a bunch of junk down there, it's going to be less absorbable. The ozone's going to absorb way less. And so by cleaning yourself out more, you're going to have a much better absorption of that ozone gas, and it can essentially achieve that percentage. But I think the big takeaway is rectal insufflation, you can do it at home every day. And so you could literally, if you wanted to do it twice a day, you can as well. So it's a little bit different than, you know, if you found a clinic to go do some ozone IV at, you may have to drive an hour and a half to 2 hours to go to this place. You can't just keep pricking your arm over and over and over. You know, it gets irritating. And so this is something that you can do literally every single day. And so in the comfort of your own home, you don't have to miss work. You don't have to like take it out of your schedule. You just get up 10 minutes earlier than normal. I think everybody can do that. And you can do a rectal insufflation.
Yeah, super safe, super effective. And like I do mine. Some people say that you get lots of energy from it, but I could do mine before I go to bed and there's no issues at all. But I guess it depends on everyone's body and what their schedules allow. You know, I can't really get much done. I don't know about you when the kids are awake, you know, the kids are around, I can't get much done. So I always, no, it's crazy. So I usually do it at night, but I mean, this is really effective therapy, from drinking the water to the systemic whole body ozone rectal treatments to utilizing it for prevention. Like if you want to be able to see, when you're 95, 100 years old, or if you want to be able to hear, which is a major problem, you know, doing some of these things every single week at least would be, I think, really beneficial. Yeah.
I mean, I think honestly, like the way we are living the way we live, we're eating processed foods, we're dealing with pollution, we're dealing with like all these other things. Like you can't just live your life as is anymore. You have to do these other treatments outside the box. Nobody wants to be in their 40s or 50s and be immobile. Like nobody wants to, have these diseases. I think there are so many people with like pre-existing conditions out there, like when they're in their 40s and 50s, like that never used to be the case. Like we have to do something different. And, like for me, when my kids get older and they have kids, like I want to be that grandparent who can like run around with them and, hang out with them and take care of them, because like that's an important thing for me. And so, let me find a way to achieve that, because that's a huge goal. And I think ozone it's one of the tools that we can use to help us get there.
Yeah. We've got a bunch of questions from our Patreon supporters, and we'll get to those in just a second. So in terms of the last sort of talking points of this conversation, I want, if you can talk a little bit about your machines, and, there's different types of machines that are out there. I've heard that Nikola Tesla was using cold plasma, but, he wasn't able to achieve the concentration desire that needs to be. It's not necessarily strong enough. And then there's the ceramics, and some people are concerned with the aluminum in the ceramics and all this kind of stuff. So if you can talk a little bit about your machines and the safety of them and stuff.
So we utilize a cold ozone production process, and we utilize that through a really well-constructed ozone cell that's made out of ceramic. And so ceramic and this is the key point, ceramic as well as glass is a fully oxidized material. So if we look at on the mole scale where ceramic falls, it falls just under diamonds as far as how strong it is, okay? So it's a very robust, strong material. Glass falls under ceramic. Even quartz glass falls under ceramic as far as on the mole scale. And so both ceramic and glass are excellent. They're if you look at the end of what they're comprised of, they are fully oxidized materials. They cannot oxidize any further, meaning there is absolutely no way that you can leach anything negative into the ozone gas. And so the advantage over ceramic is it cools 30 times faster than glass. And so when we're talking about a cold production process, cooling that ozone stream is so important, because we can get a much more stable concentration of ozone gas. And that's really what we're looking for. If we have an ozone concentration that's all over the place, that's going up, that's going down, we're not going to know how our treatments are going to be, and we're not going to get the success that we want. And so having a good, stable, pure ozone concentration is where it's at. We also have done independent testing on our ozone streams to prove that it is pure. What we do is we actually ozonate water for like upwards to 8 hours, and we send it to a lab to be analyzed. And so they're looking for like whatever junk that they can find, and it always comes back clear because we know ceramic is a very clean material.
So in one of your videos, you mention I think it's AL203, or aluminum, and then 203, in terms of like there being basically no aluminum, because that's kind of a hanging point. Some people say with the ceramic, right, is going to bring aluminum in, but is that the case?
So there's actually no aluminum, because you're looking at AL203 so think about it like this. You have aluminum, and in the process of adding oxygen to aluminum, you're generating a white powder, okay? So that white powder is a completely different material. It's a completely different compound from aluminum. And so it's essentially turning itself into ceramic. And so ceramic, so here's a good example. If you took aluminum, pure aluminum, and exposed it to oxygen, and if it was not able to generate that protective layer, it would actually just the oxygen would just consume the aluminum. There'd be massive reaction happening. And so the whole thing that's so interesting with ceramic is what they're using it for nowadays. They're using it and I think this is the big thing people need to realize. What are they using ceramic in right now that's also regarding to health?
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the show so far. I wanted to tell you about sauna therapy. And I don't know if you guys do sauna therapy on a regular basis. I do. I've been doing so for 10 years. And the sauna that I love the most and have been using all this time is the Relax Far Infrared Sauna. And what I love about the sauna is that, A, it's cost effective. It doesn't cost $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 like most other saunas. It's portable, which means if you have a tight space, you can store underneath your bed. After each use, you can put it in the closet, or you can even loan it to a friend. It's very low EMF. It uses far infrared light though, which helps to increase circulation, increase cardiovascular output, increase heat shock proteins, which has a direct effect on immune cell function. It also helps improving lymphatic drainage, and most importantly, sweating out toxins that you're exposed to on a daily basis. This is by far my favorite health piece of equipment I have in my home. I'll put a link to it on today's show page or on our store, biochargemate.com.
They're putting it is the best material that you can use for dental implants. And so when people get a dental implant, the two options you have are titanium, which is really, really bad for you, by the way, or you can have a ceramic. And so what do they refer to as, like, how does ceramic get viewed? Ceramic is biocompatible to the body. So it does not interact with like how our body functions, where titanium does. Like, I was talking to a dentist. He says every single titanium implant that I've pulled out, I have found necrotic tissue on it. And so think about it. It's almost like putting like a battery in your head. And so it's something that we don't want. So ceramic is biocompatible. It does not have any reactions with ozone because it's fully oxidized. It is, and also I want to point this out, in a lot of medical ozone generators in Europe where ozone is medically approved, they also use ceramic in their generators because it's a very, very good material. So for people who are still skeptics out there, Europe has approved these types of things to be used in their ozone generators. And this is like the FDA equivalent in Europe, or the FDA equivalent compared to the United States.
So what I like about your outfit is that, you can call up and get customer support really easily. There's tons of videos that you guys have on your website. It's my understanding you guys do free shipping to the continental United States. Is that right?
That's correct. So we have a pretty good support team. So the way we teach people, like, our big takeaway is, if you can't learn how to do ozone properly, you're not going to get the benefits. So we have pretty good videos online that teach you how to do it. We have a lot of like animated videos that go over stuff. We have a really, really nice manual that we send out that has picture-based instructions on how to set everything up. We have a really good guide that tells you like how long to do your therapies, like what concentrations to do it at. That's included. The other really nice thing that we offer for people who need that additional support, and this is a free service to anybody who buys a generator, they can get one-on-one Zoom training with a live person through our company, and we can teach you how to essentially do everything. So not everybody takes us up on that. Not everybody takes us up on that free offer, but it's for people who need that extra push to understand how it works and how it operates. We also offer a lifetime warranty on our generator because we know it's going to hold up. It's made in the United States, so we don't have any supply issues where a lot of companies that get a lot of their parts from China, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, it's hit or miss. Like I've seen stuff from China. Like sometimes you get good stuff, sometimes you get bad stuff. That's something I don't want to deal with. I don't want to risk like the people that I work with or the people that buy from us maybe getting something that they weren't supposed to get. So like we have USA suppliers, USA made stuff. So we know exactly what we're getting every single time, and it's always consistent. So that's really important to us.
And there's also a money back guarantee, right? I think
we have a 30-day money back guarantee. That's absolutely correct.
So what's cool, I didn't even know, because we just got another one of your machines for my parents. And I didn't even know that you have that live Zoom training. That's pretty awesome.
If your parents need any help, like seriously, like it's really easy. You just click on our support tab on our website and it says, you know, set up consultations, and you can pick the time. It automatically sends you a Zoom link, and it'll be with one of our trained individuals who will go over how to properly use the stuff. And so
that's cool.
You know, like I said, not everybody takes us up on that, but that is there for people who need the additional support. And like I said previously, if you're not using it properly, you're not going to get the benefits. And if you don't get the benefits, you're not going to talk positively about ozone. And that's super important to us. Like we want everybody to have a positive experience with ozone.
Yeah. And I think that learning how to take control over your health and practice preventative medicine, to me, I think if you don't do that, you're going to become a part of the system. You can be susceptible to ending up in a hospital. And that's one thing we don't want to do. And so I'm really happy to be connected with you. We have a few Patreon questions, and before we sort of dive into the members section of this and get your answers to these questions, I just want to let everyone know that I think we do have a coupon code for you guys.
That's correct.
And I think it's EHR10, and that's like a 10% discount. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yeah. So if you use that coupon code, you're going to get a discount on packages. You can still get all of our support that comes with it. That's just a discount off the purchase price. So, you know, utilize that if you're interested. You know, if you want to call us up and also schedule a sales call, we'd be happy to help out as well to answer any questions. I do want to, like, you know, just really quick, if you have like 2 minutes, I just want to go over one quick thing about like getting into ozone. Getting into ozone does require a pure oxygen source. And so like, this is what most people typically get. This is a welding tank that you can buy at your local welding facility for about $150. So everybody's like, oh, welding gas, that can't be safe. Well, it's actually the same as medical gas. There's absolutely no difference. And so because they fill the tanks from the same place. And so for people who want to get into ozone, that is the cheapest, that is the easiest, cheapest way to go. It costs about $150 to get, and a tank this size will probably last you 3 to 6 months. And so if you go down there and get it, just tell them you're using it for water purification. Just don't say ozone therapy. You say water purification.
Yeah. Yeah. Super simple. We've done it. And we did that for my parents. Super easy. But that's the only other thing you need. Do you guys sell those or do you have to do that locally?
So we recommend doing it locally because think about it like this. You're going to a facility that's providing a service. So their service is filling that oxygen tank or providing you a full tank. When that tank is empty, you can't just fill this up at your home. You have to go back to that place to get it filled. So develop a relationship with the place that you're going to go use. You know, it's going to make it a lot easier moving forward. Typically, when I need to get a refill, it takes me about 5 minutes. I walk in, I give them this empty tank. They're going to give me a full tank. So it's essentially like swapping out a propane tank. It takes minimal time. And on average, here's the cool part. On average, it costs about $20 to $30 to get a refill. So, I mean, if you look at operational costs, like every 3 to 6 months, it's $20 to $30. That's a really good price.
Yeah. And as soon as you pay, and the cool thing too, I think for your ozone, you have a payment program. I think you're connected up with some third-party apps or something where people can pay over time. And so that's great too.
That is correct. And honestly, we've done a really good job keeping our prices down over the past few years. I see a lot of my competitors, they've like doubled their prices. I refuse to do that. I don't think it's right. And so we've maintained a very fair competitive price. And, it essentially allows more people to get in and use ozone.
That's good stuff. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to read these questions here, just like just a little tidbits of them, and then I'll circle back and start with the first one. But we have Misa, who's a Patreon member. She wants to know about ozone and nerves. Leland wants to know about water or rectal insufflations. Thomas asks about eye drops. Audrey asks about breathing ozone. Robert asks about ozone specific protocols, general protocols. Marjorie wants to know the difference between rectal and IV. Laura wants to know about vaginal benefits for vaginal insufflations. Deidre wants to know about how often should she do the insufflations. Charles asks about ozonated water, ozone oil on the gums, ozone suppositories, good oxygen sources, the benefits of ozone saunas, ozonated pills, and ozone along with hydrogen. So those are all the questions for those that are listening on the free version, and we'll tackle some of those right now. The first one is ozone and nerves. Can ozone penetrate through the gums and down into the dental nerve that is infected and clear it up?
So yes, ozone is highly soluble.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Well, thanks so much, Tobias, for taking this interview. And I know you've got some great interviews yourself on your Promolife YouTube channel. And I appreciate all the work you're doing with ozone. What is, in some of your videos, you talk about like innovation in terms of the machines, that you're creating and all this kind of stuff. And I'm sure that, we haven't really gotten down to what, some of the more effective treatments, because I'm sure there's other ways that we can utilize ozone that we don't know about yet. What kinds of things are you guys working on at Promolife?
So that's really what I like to do. Like, I like to find new and creative ways to utilize ozone. One of the new products that I'm working on right now, and I've had several practitioners request something like this. We always want to make things easier to use, because we feel that the problem with today's society is everything's so rushed. Nobody has time to do anything. So if we can make things easy, people are more likely to do it. So one of the new products that we're coming out with, and this is designed for the crotch area. So we're coming out with a system that allows individuals at home who have a system to essentially ozonate that crotch area, and that's going to be great for like people who have like herpes issues and like jock itch, any fungal issues down there. One of the practitioners that I work with, he was essentially describing like, you need to be healthy down there to be healthy all over. And same with the mouth. You need to be healthy in the mouth to be healthy all over. And so, that's just one area we can help treat to essentially, hopefully, increase the overall health of the individual. So, we want to find better creative ways to administer the ozone to make it easier. And ozone machines are like, these are solid machines. Like, these are going to last you for a long time. And ozone's ozone. As long as you're using pure oxygen, ozone is ozone. So there's not really a lot of innovation we can do on the ozone side other than like, cool bells and whistles and stuff like that. But what it boils down to is the applications that we come out with that allow you to use the ozone. And so we have a lot of different applications that we provide, probably more than anybody out there. And our goal is to essentially make it as easy as possible for you to use in your home so you can be effective. And so, if there's products that people want to see, shoot us a message. We'll take it. We'll consider it, because we do have the ability to come up and create and manufacture products.
Yeah, like you said, there's so many different areas, and that's an area where people are generally kind of, embarrassed to talk about, or, if they have something on their vagina or their penis or something, it's like they're researching it online, but they want to talk about it. And so, I saw recently you have a cap that you can put, like a shower cap, essentially, where you can put ozone over the scalp. I saw something recently that looks interesting. I think you mentioned it, the mouth guard. You can get ozone on your teeth. So, coming up with these ways to get ozone in and on the body is, it's amazing. And the more that you can do, the more people can treat themselves at home,
Yeah. Like honestly, like the head bag, like I have like multiple uses set aside when I need to use that. Like, we have people who use it who have thinning hair, and they're literally telling me it's regrowing their hair.
Wow.
So like I am just waiting for the day. I hope it never happens. If my kid comes home with lice, first thing I'm going to do is head bag, ozone, get rid of it within like 5 to 10 minutes.
I
So
know.
that's my next thing I'm going to try.
So methylene blue is quickly becoming one of my favorite tools to use my overall health strategy and immune system strengthening. It's an amazing substance. It was first put together in 1876 by German scientist and chemist named Hendrik Caro. Later, it was used in the treatment of malaria by Paul Gutman and Paul Ehrlich in 1891. But then later, it was synthesized into a popular drug that we can't talk about today, starting an I and ending in in. So what I love about it, though, is that it is an electron donor, electron acceptor, and an electron recycler. It helps to change the conformation of hemoglobin in the red blood cells so the hemoglobin can carry more oxygen to every single tissue in your body. And it also helps to clean up senescent cells. It increases mitochondrial biogenesis, increasing ATP production. It works as a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, increasing dopamine and serotonin. It's a nootropic. It's antimicrobial. It's an antidepressant. It's antioxidant. And therefore, it's neuroprotective. And I like the company Lifeblood because it is a liquid tincture. And I usually use a small amount, like 1 or 2 drops per day. But then if I have some health challenge going on, like a cold or flu, I might do 20 to 30 drops in 1 ounce water 3 times a day. So I'll go heavy on the methylene blue. But what I also like is you can nebulize it too and get it into your lung tissue, or you could use it topically on your skin, although it will stain your skin. If this is interesting to you, check out the book called The Ultimate Guide to Methylene Blue by Mark Sloan. It'll blow your mind. Or you can listen to episode 731 by Adam Marifiotti from Lifeblood. So check out methylene blue, add it to your stack on today's show page or in our store, biochargemate.com, and the code EHR10 will get you a 10% discount. Yeah, that's so cool. I didn't think about that. Yeah, from the eyes to the ears to the nose to the mouth to the head, different applications on the skin, getting it in rectally and vaginally, breathing it in through the oil and getting it onto your lungs. I mean, there's so many great ways, and the water is really effective too. And, I think that my personal belief is that if everyone understood the power of ozone, how to use it, and they actually had a machine at their house, this whole thing that we went through the last 2.5, 3 years never would have happened. It
would have been a lot less. So there's it's not hard to do at home, just taking the ozone, taking a syringe full of ozone, shooting up your nose if you're out and about, if you're worried about viral issues, like I said. Yeah. All that's doing is lowering the viral load. That's our goal, is if we can reduce viral load in the body, we are way less likely to get sick. And so, ozone's been around for a long time. It has a proven track record. I mean, there is a lot of studies out there that show how effective it is. Just what irritates me more than anything is like all these BS websites that pop up, like even like Wikipedia, they literally say ozone is a joke. Ozone is not recognized because it does not do anything. Like I was on I don't know if you guys are all familiar with that recent thing that Gwyneth Paltrow said. She mentioned rectal insufflations for one of her go-to treatments. And then the New York posted an article about her calling her a nut job. And so I scrolled down on reading all the comments, and they're like literally bashing her. And I was talking to another guy, he was trying to post on that same forum, and they wouldn't let him post. Like, I think they're literally curating the posts just to generate more hate, more divisiveness, all this kind of stuff, because like ozone has been around for like a long time. Like there are a lot of people who use ozone that you don't realize. And so it's not as wacky of a doodle thing that people make it out to be.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Quite the contrary. Tobias, thank you so much. I appreciate it. What are you going to do rest of today? Anything fun?
Man, I've got a few other things I'm working on. I've got to take some phone calls. I got to help out some people, and, just enjoying the rest of the day. What about you?
I have a members Q&A right after this with our Patreon members. And then I'm going to help. We have twin boys, so my wife is often overwhelmed with our twin boys. So I'll probably help her a little bit.
How old are your twin boys?
They'll be 5 in June. So they're a handful. How about you?
I can I have two kids that are 8 and 10 years old. I can relate because I have a twin brother as well, and I understand how
I know
my mom
way.
had to deal with us. So
Uh,
that's a good age. 5 years old. That's a really fun age. So
oh, cool, cool. I'm glad. Yeah, I often wonder, if it gets easier, and I'm sure it does, but
it gets a lot easier. So
that's awesome. Well, thanks, Tobias, for being on. I appreciate it so much.
thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay.
All right, there you guys go. Episode 766, Tobias Segal from Promolife. I hope you guys enjoyed that show. There was a lot, obviously, that we didn't get to, and I didn't want to dig in too much into the weeds with the science of this because I feel like, I get that question quite often, exactly how it works and all of that. But what I really wanted to do with that interview was to inspire you to start doing some research. And I'll put a link to some books down below or on the show page for this and past shows we've done on ozone too. I really want to inspire you guys to look further into ozone therapy and everything it can do, because I'm convinced after having used it and studied it for the last few years, like this is one of the most powerful treatments that you can have in your home. And I recommend, like a lot of times people will ask me, would you recommend a, molecular hydrogen or a sauna? Sauna to me is really, really awesome. And you can utilize that with ozone. But I'd have to say ozone has a slight advantage over the sauna, just because of the use applications, like we talked about, in terms of getting it in your body and on your body in different ways. And so I really like that. And I'm going to be eventually coming out with an ozone course on how to do all of these treatments, because I feel like, that it has to be done in a way that's easy, that's simple, that makes sense, that's not, going to be a 30-minute video on how to do something. So that's something I'm working on in the background, and how to use and apply ozone, for your health. But I think that, everyone should invest in an ozone machine. It's, if you don't want to get it from Promolife, get it from somewhere else, but just get one and start utilizing it and start learning how to do it. Because I'm telling you, you don't have to fear a thing about what these people in the media are telling you about. Oh, gosh, I can't even use the word. I'll just use the word big C, little v. So you don't have to worry about that if you know the power of ozone. And if you know about treatments like ultraviolet blood irradiation or IV ozone. So, if something ever happens to you and you come down with something, you could utilize rectal insufflations, drinking the water. You can gargle with it. You can get, a lot of times these, non-living entities, if you believe in such a thing, come into the body through your ear canal. And so that's why a lot of times people who get sick will put food grade hydrogen peroxide in their ear to kill any bacteria that are coming in. And so oxygen therapy, specifically utilizing ozone, to me is one of the most powerful things you can do for preventative as well. And, for extra cells, if you have extra cells growing on the skin, the olive oil would be something that I would do. I have a whole Patreon protocol about that and different substances that you can use topically and internally for extra cells growing on the skin. But ozone is at the top of the list. And, there's been whole webinars and studies done on digestive health too, with ozone therapy and leaky gut and these types of treatments. So home treatment of this, to me, I think we have to get over this idea of, being, scared or being fearful or being embarrassed about this kind of stuff. This is, if we want to live a long time, in today's modern toxic world, we're going to have to look at some pretty creative solutions. And the way I look at it is, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure kind of thing, where, I'm not going to do a 30-minute coffee enema. I used to do those. I just don't have the time anymore. But 5 minutes doing a rectal ozone insufflation 4 times a week, I mean, that's something I could do even with twin boys, So these are things that you can do on a regular basis that I think can keep you extremely healthy, full of energy. And I'll put links down below to some of the other shows we've done, I think with Schallenberger and some other people on ozone therapy. But really, really highly effective treatment. I think everyone needs to know about it. And if you have a family, this is really something that I think would be extremely beneficial to have a machine and know how to use it. Because I tell you what, like when you know how to treat yourself and you understand how this stuff works, you're never going to be fearful again. And fear is the gateway to manipulation. Fear is how they get you to take action and do things you wouldn't otherwise normally do because of some fearful thing going on. And so when you take away all of the fear, then their suggestions, which is normally a sharp thing in the arm, is not going to persuade you, because you know of other viable treatments that are 100% way more effective. And so the fear goes away. And so, this is one of those things where this is part of our goal at Extreme Health Radio, is to illuminate some of these treatments like Rife frequencies, like UBI, like ozone, like molecular hydrogen, like PEMF therapy, red light therapy, detox strategies. All of these things can be utilized, effectively together, to be able to restore health. And what's cool about ozone therapy too, in terms of injections, is that you can utilize it to, for pain in the body, a painful back, restoring tissue in the knee, these types of things. You can do prolozone. And so I love sharing stuff like this. I think it's awesome just to put all the options on the table, and really offer people true informed consent. Because if everyone has true informed consent, then, but we can't have that, because if we have that, people are going to realize that what they're offering is, deadly. So true informed consent really takes power back into your hands. So, you can go to an ozone. I invite you to go to a doctor that administers ozone and get a price quote for EBU or a 10 pass. And you're going to realize really quick that this is super expensive. And by having a machine in your home, you can essentially pay for 1 or 2 treatments of an IV therapy and do all these other treatments as well, from ear to eyes to, the saline drops to making the olive oil. You can do all of it at home. So again, if you have kids, definitely invest in one of these machines. What I like about the Promolife is that they do offer an option for a payment plan. I think we set my parents up on one of those. And we offer the EHR 10 discount too, if you're interested in those, or a discount on their products. I think it applies to all their products, maybe just the ozone ones, I'm not sure. But try EHR 10 and that will give you a discount as well. But I'm really a big fan, as you can imagine, of ozone, so much so that not only have I read books about it, done multiple interviews about it, and utilized it myself, but I'm going to be coming out with a course on how to do all this stuff, because I think that's needed, and a lot of people have been asking for it. So I think that would be a great service too. And so that'll be coming out hopefully sometime soon. I've got it kind of all laid out. I just need to do it. And, it's difficult and challenging with twin boys who are almost 5. So time is at a premium. So hopefully I can get it done this year. So anyway, I thank you guys for listening. If you want links to anything we talk about, I'll put it in the description below, as well as extremehealthradio.com/766. I really appreciate you listening and sharing and supporting us on Patreon and supporting us on our store, BioChargeMe, and going through our links in our store. That really supports everything that we do. So I appreciate it so much. Thank you again for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only and is in no way intended as medical advice, as a substitute for medical counseling, or as a treatment/cure for any disease or health condition, and nor should it be continued as such. Always work with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, prescription drug use, lifestyle, or exercise activities. This information is provided as is, and the reader/viewer assumes all risks from the use, non-use, or misuse of this information.